So today I'll be telling you about the difference between arrays and array lists. So they're both the two main data structures that you'll be using to store any kind of information you need, but there is a fair amount of difference in the way you use them. So arrays have a fixed space. When you create it, you give them an amount of space, and then that's all you have. Think of them like a set of drawers. You can use the drawers or not use them. You can have something in them or not. But you can't just add another drawer. It's a piece of furniture, and you can't just add another one. It's not how it works. Array lists, on the other hand, are much more elastic. The pieces of data are all connected together. You can think of them as being tied together by a string, for example. And you can simply untie the knot in some place, remove a piece of data, or just add in one more to the chain by untying the string and retying and adding a different piece of string. So it can adapt to anything you want to add or remove or switch around. Both arrays and array lists can store and retrieve any information you give them. That's their basic purpose. They can reassign a value at a specific space. And they can also tell you the number of items they hold or the number of spaces they have to hold items. Array lists can also add new entries, which arrays can't. So the code which you would use for arrays to get the length is simply the name of the array dot the length. So don't forget, you don't put brackets for arrays. It's like if it was an instance variable. To assign a new value, you do name and then square brackets and then the index position of where you want the new value to be. So the drawer which you want to look into and to put something new into. It has to be an int. And then you set that equal to whatever you want to put in there. If you want to retrieve something that's in a drawer, you'll do name and then square brackets, and in the square brackets the number of the drawer you're looking into. So to create the array, you'll do the type, so what kind of thing are you keeping in there, so it can be an int or a string or whatever. So you'll do the kind of thing, square brackets, and then the name, and then equal new, the kind of thing you're putting in again, square brackets, and this time in the square brackets you have to put how many spaces you want your array to have. For array lists, to get the size you do name dot size, and this time you do need the brackets. They call it size, not length, for array lists. Not my decision, you'll just have to remember that. To access a specific item, you do name.get, and then in the brackets, you put the index position of the item you want to get. And then if you want to add a new item, there's two ways you can do this. You can simply do name.add, and then the item. Bear in mind that it has to be an item of the type that is stored in your array list. And this method will just add it to the end. It will append it, so it will be in the last position. You could also do name.add the object you want to add, comma, the index position you want to put it in, and that will insert it right where you want it. To remove things, you can do name.remove and then in the brackets put the index position of the item you want to remove. This will return the object that's being removed. So like that you can handle it and do something else with it. It doesn't just disappear. There's also name.set, which you give in the brackets an index position, a comma, and then the replacement object. So this one will replace the object at the index position given by whatever it's given second. To create an array list, you'll write array list and then the sort of triangular brackets, greater than or lesser than. And then in that, put the type of whatever you're going to put in there. So it could be int, it could be string, it could be object. And then you write the name that you want your array list to have. And you set that equal to new array list in the triangular brackets, and then the normal round brackets. So an example of how you could use an array would be this. So you create a new array of ints called example, which will be an array of length 3. You set example at index 0 to 23, example at index 1 to 32, and an example at index 2 to 24. Then you say total will be equal to whatever is in the position 0 of example, plus whatever is in the position 1 of example, plus whatever is in the position 2 of example. So when this runs, the first line will create, simply, you can think of it as the drawers, so 3 adjacent drawers, or spaces simply, to store these ints. They will all start off with 0 because the default value of int is 0. And the first line will change whatever's in the box at index 0 to 23. The second line will change whatever's in the box number 1 to 32. And the third line will change whatever's in the box number 2 to 24. And then the total will give you 79. Here's an example of using an array list. So you would start off by saying an array list of string example is a new array list. So you can do example.add the string stretches, and then example.add the string it in position 0, and then example.set whatever's in position 1 to adjust, and then example.remove the item at position 0, and then example.get the item at position 0, and then simply the size of example. So at the start, when this happens, it will simply create the name example, which is a pointer to an array list, but right now it's not pointing to anything. The array list is empty. The first line will add stretches to the end of this array list, which in this case happens to be the first position, and the pointer will point to stretches. Then when you add it, the pointer that was pointing from example to stretches gets reassigned to point to it, and then it has a pointer that ties it to stretches. So right now, if you follow the thread, example points to it, stretches. The third line will set whatever is in position 1, in this case stretches, to adjusts. So it takes out stretches from the chain, and the pointer from the end of it now points to adjusts. So now the array list contains it, adjusts. Then when you remove the item at position 0, it takes out it of the chain. So the pointer that goes from example now points directly to adjusts. So then when you call example.getZero, it will return the value of adjust. And when you call example.size, it will simply return 1 because there's one item in your array list at this point in the code. So here's a summary again of how you do the same actions between arrays and array lists. So to get the length of a data structure, for arrays you'll do name.length. For array lists, you'll do name.size brackets. To set the value of a certain index position, for arrays, you'll do name square brackets, index position, close the square brackets, equals the new value. For array lists, you'll do name.set index position, comma, new object. To access a value, for an array, you'll do name square brackets of index position. And for array list, you'll do name.get round brackets of the index position. The array list, don't forget the two add methods as well, which are how you add new objects, and it's the main functionality of array lists, which allows it to stretch and be much more adaptable, as well as remove, which allows it to stretch in the other direction and more like shrink.